we underestimate what we can do in a year and overestimate what we can do in a day. But if somebody would have met me 2 years ago when I'm just clicking send on that first newsletter, there's no way I would have believed that I would have a book coming out, be making the money I'm making, be talking to the people. So just believe that you can do it. And you're already in an amazing community right now with the Mighty Networks crew.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Creator Summit. Thank you for being here. So excited about what we've got in store for you for the next little bit. And we're going to get started with our first session because we've got so much to get into today. So, welcoming Amanda up to the stage.
Hey,
Amanda, how are you?
Darrell. Hey, I'm good. Excited to be here.
Excited for you to be here. First of all, you're on family vacation right now, and I just want to say thank you for calling in even from vacation. This is part of why I love the work that we do, is that you knew how important it was to be able to talk to all these folks at the
Yeah.
Creator Summit, that you even made the space and time to do that while you're on a family vacation. So thanks for calling on your vacation today.
Yeah, we'll see if kids can stay building Legos downstairs for an hour. So fingers crossed, everyone.
Yeah. So tell me this really quick. I'd love to just give me like the 30-second version of Amanda. The thing that you and I have in common that I actually really love here is we're both from small town Midwest. But like you've done so much in your career. So for those who don't know you, give us just the 30 seconds of what we need to know about Amanda.
Okay, and I just got sunscreen in my eye, everyone, because I was on the lake earlier. So if you see me crying, it's not that I'm emotional, it's that my sunscreen's in my eye. Okay, 30-second version. So I started my career at Ernst& Young, Big Four accounting firm in the Midwest, moved to New York City and started managing a celebrity wedding planner's personal brand. So reality TV, licensing deals, all of those things. And that was really my first front row seat into what it looks like to have the power of a personal brand. And from there, I actually launched my first startup, which was a tech company in the wedding space. That took me to the Knot, where I led marketing for 5.5 years. Then I started my next startup, which was a CPG business. It was a supplement business in the wellness space. And built that because of community, and I realized the power of community. I didn't spend a dollar in paid marketing. We had hundreds and hundreds, and then it led to thousands of people talking about our products, selling our products, and that led to me selling that company in 2023. So the power of both personal brand plus community, that led me to starting my own community and going all in on becoming a creator.
Which this is a pretty new journey. Just in the last couple of years, you've started doing your own personal brand, which has been really fun. I've kind of had like a behind the scenes watching you
Yeah.
grow everything. And the really cool thing is you had a book coming out this fall. So tell us a little bit about that book that's coming out. Because I think that's a
Yeah.
jumping off point for us to talk about what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people, they're like, "Oh, you became a creator so you could become an author." And really, my creator journey started with just I wanted to become a better writer. And I started a newsletter and grew that. That'll cross 100,000 subscribers. And throughout that process of writing long form, I realized how much I loved it and how much words have an impact. And so that got me a book deal. So really, having a year of newsletters to show an agent and show a publisher gave me the opportunity to get a book deal. And so my first book is coming out. It's called Toxic Grit: How to Have It All and Actually Love What You Have. And it's this struggle that a lot of ambitious people feel, which is, how do I keep being ambitious while still feeling contentment with what I have now?
Yeah, that's the jumping off point that I'd love to have for this conversation, because I think that's uh I've seen Kit put together a survey a couple of years ago, and it said something like 70% of all creators are feeling burnt out. And
Yeah.
in a world where AI now exists in a pretty significant way, where we're being told that we have to post every single day, maybe multiple times a day, it's just like there's so much going on. And if you have any level of ambition, burnout is rampant in this space and in a lot of spaces. So talk to me about why or how you really created a scenario for yourself where you could be a single mom of 3 kids. You could be a CMO fractionally and starting this newsletter and writing a book without everything burning to the ground, and falling apart.
The first thing I had to get really, really clear on is the common traps we all fall into. So I'll talk about two. First is the significance trap. Most people think something is more significant than it actually is, right? Like we think that responding to this email within these few minutes is going to make or break our business, but really 20% of the work gets 80% of the results. And so throughout my journey of being a single mom and building businesses and now having a portfolio career and multiple revenue streams, it's really important to get very clear on what's actually driving revenue and moving the business forward, and cut out kind of the rest of the frivolous stuff, which I think is really hard because when we're ambitious people, we strive for perfectionism and to do things to full completion. It's like, oh, I must respond to every email today. No, you don't. And so significance trap is kind of the first one. And the second one is urgency trap. Most things aren't as urgent as we think that they are. So where does that come from? Why do we feel the need to respond to somebody immediately on Slack, etc.? Those are all deeper things that, oh, I got to people please. I've got to make sure that they see my value. They see that I'm here, I'm doing it. But the more I understood that the real results were coming when I shielded myself from those two traps, that's kind of like that moved my business in a whole new direction. So that's kind of number one. And then the second thing I would say, I really understand this concept of, I call it the TTE, the time to expertise. When you start something new, let's use building a community, right? Say you're going to launch a community, to figure out what that community is going to be, how you're going to operationalize it, how you're going to show up. That takes 3 to 6 months for you to, what normally takes like in the beginning, like when I was first writing my newsletter, every issue took around 8 to 10 hours, right? Like
Wow.
from ideating it to like researching to see which research, like neuropsych, anything. I'm trying to pull in data, research, and then edit it, program it. Like all of that took time. But over time, that got faster and faster and faster. So if you think about, let's say you're trying to do 4 projects at once and they're all in those early stages taking 10 hours, you're going to move them forward so slow. But if you focus on one and say, okay, I'm going to get better at it, I'm going to build the efficiencies. A newsletter, I can write a newsletter now in an hour, and I can do a whole month's worth in a few hours. So give yourself the time to become an expert and operationalize and learn what is important, what isn't important, because you don't know in the beginning where your energy is going to be, where that 80/20 rule is. And I think so many people, when they become a creator, they're operating really out of a place of like fear. I've got to be everywhere because I got to make money, which is so real. And I felt that when I first started. But figure out what's going to keep the lights on. Like, what do you need to do to pay the bills? And then allow yourself to focus and finish on one project at a time so that you can really become an expert at that thing.
That's really good. Time to expertise. I see 2 things happen here. One is, people try to do 5 or 6 or 7 things all at once, and you never become proficient at any one thing. How do you find the balance of, okay, like, if I do need to, like, have this be something that's making me money, but
Yep.
also I know there's 3 to 6 months, like, talk to me about the give and take a little bit here, because I've seen people try too many things and then nothing works, and I've seen people, uh, get distracted by, like, having to have, like, a great example of this is somebody who's wanting to write a newsletter, but then they do service work on the side, in the interim, and then 2 years later, they're still only doing service work, and they've never put the focus that it really takes to become an expert at something. Talk to me about the give and take of those 2 things a little bit.
So I have a concept called offense and defense, right?
Mm,
Offense is, I was a basketball player my whole life. So offense is I have the ball, I'm moving my bigger goals forward. Defense is, all right, I got to work for others, I got to do other things to pay the bills. If you can carve out 2 hours a day to be on offense, and you focus on that 20% of work that's going to get 80% of the results, that's 10 hours of focused work a week that
Yeah.
most people can't do in a month. So if I wake up every day, guard 2 hours, and then yeah, maybe in the beginning I was still doing a lot of fractional CMO work to keep the lights on and to pay my bills. But every morning for 2 hours, I was focused on that thing for that quarter that was the new project that I was becoming proficient in, becoming an expert in. I think we allow things to fill up the time we allow it. So if you sit down at your computer and you're like, "Okay, I got 8 hours today." I It's funny because I can A/B test this. I have my kids half of the time. The weeks that I have my kids, I am more productive at work. And what I've learned is that I think, "Oh, I have all day to get this thing done." And then I let it take all day when they always say, like, if you want something done, give it to the busiest person in the room. Like, when I don't have as much time, so you have to, when you become a solopreneur and a creator, you have to be that forcing function for yourself to say, all right, these are my 2 hours. I'm on offense. These are the things I'm working on because it's moving my longer term goals forward. And then the rest of the day can be on defense. I'm working for other people. I'm still paying the bills, etc. But those
Yeah.
2 hours will have meaningful results.
Yeah, and I always say, like, put those 2 hours at the beginning of your day, not the end of your
Yep,
day,
yep,
because you wanna give your best and highest energy. It's like first fruits idea or first principles idea, which is
yep.
like, I'm giving my best energy, my best attention to that thing right first in the morning. Next question here. How do I know what the thing is that I should focus on? Because there's another trap that I see people fall into all the time where it's like they've been focusing on a thing for 6 to 9 months and there's no momentum, there's no movement, it's not
Mm.
working, and it may never work. How do you decide A, what I should be prioritizing in that 2 hours a day, and then when to keep going and when to give up?
I work in quarters at a time, and
Mhm.
I say, okay, for this quarter, I'm going to launch a course, okay, and I'm going to learn what it means to be the best at launching a course. What I find with most people is they spend so much energy asking, is this the right thing? That that energy is now going out and you're constantly questioning like every move, right? So for a quarter, I am launching a course. And then at the end of the quarter, I have a retro with myself to say, okay, what results did this have? Am I going to be a course creator? Did the level of effort match the level of impact? Both impact on people, did it really get the impact of that I wanted with the words and the teaching? Did it have the impact on my business? And then I ask myself like, if I would have used this time to do anything else, like what would be different? And then I might say, wow, okay, if I do XYZ, maybe next quarter I stick with this course and I build the recurring revenue streams. I build into like funnel optimization and nurturing tracks. Okay, I believe that I could maybe build another 5 to 6 figures of revenue if I focus there. Or I say, holy crap, I spent so much time. I made, $20,000 on this launch. I could have focused on these two things and made 50,000. I'm going to pivot. But the point is, I think the thing you're hearing me say is a clear operating rhythm to
Yep.
say, I'm going to focus on this. I'm not going to look at anything else. I'm here. This is the choice I made for this quarter. And I think a lot of this comes from working at big companies because when you have thousands of employees, you can't be like on a random Tuesday, oh, maybe we should do this other thing because you've got thousands of people working on the thing you said 2 weeks ago. You can't quickly pivot the Titanic. So I think about that for myself, even just as a one person show. I have to stay focused on the thing I said was important and trust that I made that decision with enough data and experience and like sounding board of community to say, yeah, this feels like the right next step in my flywheel and my creator journey. and here's all the reasons why, and stay focused with blinders to not say, well, maybe if I do this, maybe that partnership could be cool. This could be fun. Yeah, that's a not right now. Put it in a parking lot and revisit it at the end of the quarter.
Yep. Babs just said you can't quickly pivot the Titanic, which is very true. I love that you're doing this in the 3-month rhythms. That's really great. So we're not going years of wasted time, but we're also staying really committed to become excellent and proficient at certain things. So I love, love, love that rhythm. Um, I'm I'm curious about this question. So the significance trap. How do I know what is significant and what's insignificant? How do I decide between those things? Like you mentioned the 80-20 principle here. How do I know what's the 20 that I should be focusing on versus the 80 that I should maybe put into the defense category?
I'm going to give you a very clear visual. Say you make, a graph 4 quadrant chart, level of effort, level of impact. Just
Mm,
back of the napkin math. If you say, I could launch a new course, that is extremely high effort and potentially middle impact. And you just keep going. And I firmly believe that you should always allow for your brain to have ideas. Ideas are great, even if they're crazy. I'm going to, you know, pitch this media company to be their face of whatever, like whatever it is, put it into an idealist. I have an ideation station is what I call it. And it's like, okay, whenever I have an idea, I put it there. Then you go through and say, what's the level of impact of doing this to my business if it succeeds? What's the level of effort? And start to plot it on the graph. And after that, you're going to start to say, okay, based on everything I've got going on for the next quarter, how much effort do I have in my 2 hours a day? What do I think I want to focus on for this quarter? And you can look at it, you can start to see how they stack up, and then you pick the two. Maybe it's two things, and you say, okay, I'm going to grow my newsletter because I believe that that is going to, I started this thing, it didn't really take off. But I believe that if I focus for a quarter, it could have a pretty big impact on my roadmap because a newsletter can drive community members, it can drive other things, sponsorships, etc. Okay, I launched it, but then I didn't focus on growing it. So that becomes your objective for the next quarter. And you're just weighing everything. And I think the thing I want to leave people with, if they took nothing else away, is that there are no right answers. It's choosing the best one for you and then going 100% on that and not looking around questioning if it was the right one, waiting until that 3-month mark to say, huh, I put everything into this. Where am I at? Where did it get me?
I think that's super huge. I have another framework that I call the myth of leadership, which is I don't know what I'm doing and I think I'm the only one. And the reality is, most leaders who I've met or most people that I've looked up to, it's like they don't know any more than I know. What they
No.
do, though, is that they know that they have everything that they need right now to take the next right step. And it's kind of like next right step, next right step, next right step. They stop looking external for all of the answers and realize that you actually have everything that you need to get going.
Yeah.
And it's just the next right step. And it's been so funny to me every time I like build somebody up on a pedestal of my mind and I get to meet them. I'm like, oh, they're making
Yeah.
it up as they go too. Okay, got it, got it, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Or they're like looking at somebody else and reverse engineering. They don't have anything that I don't have. And I think that's one of the
Yes.
biggest myths that people believe into.
Decision making is all about two things: giving yourself the period of time to collect as much data as you need to make a good decision, and then setting a timeline on when you're going to make the decision. Because so many people, what's the Lorne Michaels SNL thing? The show doesn't go on because it's ready. The show goes on because it's 11:30 or whatever. It's like that's real.
Yeah.
When you are a solopreneur and a creator and a community builder, the show is not going to go on when it's ready. you have to allow yourself enough time to say, do I have enough information to make the best decision? Okay, this is the best decision I'm making with this information. I'm trusting it and I'm making it and we're moving forward. And then the rest of your work is making it the best decision for you, or giving yourself this operating rhythm to reevaluate that decision in 3 months.
Yep. I love that. Okay. The second trap is the urgency trap. As a recovering, and this can be a Darrell therapy session. So
I love it. Let's go.
as a recovering, everything is urgent all of the time. Like, talk to me about this trap a little bit more, because I think that it's like I've got to pop here, I've got to respond here, I've got this.
Mhm.
I feel like I sometimes feel like a psycho where I'm just like moving from urgent thing to urgent thing. And I think what I'm realizing is if everything is urgent, then nothing is urgent. But talk to me about this trap a little bit more.
If we picture ourselves, like picture it like a graph, and you start working on something and then something disrupts you, and then you go back to working on it and then something disrupts you. The amount of time that it took to do that thing is now like this big. Whereas if you would have focused and finished, did that thing, and then moved to the other thing, people think that they can multitask. It's been proven that we are actually just rapidly switching our brains back and forth. And the amount of lost efficiency when we have to go back, it's like, oh, okay, I'm doing this deck. Oh, wait, there's a Slack message. Oh, wait, there's an email. Oh, my partner texted me. Oh, this, oh, this. Every time we go back to that deck to create it, our brain has to get back into the mindset. And so we are actually taxing our brain. So there's two things here. We're taxing our brain, which means we become more cognitively tired faster. And then the second thing is it's taking longer to stay in that flow and to get back into that flow. So if we just think about how do we protect our brain and optimize it for most efficiency throughout the day, because that's what I'm trying to save it from cognitive efficiency. You could say, I'm going to work on this deck for 1 hour. Then I'm going to check my email for 10 minutes. Then I'm going to check Slack for 10 minutes. And in 80 minutes, you've done something that I bet would have probably taken 3 hours had you kept bouncing around. So there's this phrase that actually I worked for this guy, and he was the president of the company, and he would say, focus and finish. Just focus and finish on the thing that's in front of you, and then switch to the next thing and give it 100%. Because when you're giving something half attention, you're going to get half results. So I think about this both in work and life. If I'm here doing this, I'm here 100%. And then I'm going to shut it down and switch to the next thing. And I won't feel guilty that I didn't give you guys 100% because I did. And then my kids get 100% when I'm there. So I just think this concept of focus and finish goes so much more even beyond like letting Slack messages and email bombard you, but really protecting the thing that's in front of you because it deserves your attention, and also protecting your brain from the inefficiencies and the overwhelm that you're allowing, which is just making you more tired throughout the day. So I'm like, I want to be going throughout the day. So how do I protect it?
That's good. Okay. I love the theory of that. What does the actual practice look like? How do I
Yeah.
stop? Like, I think, because there's a lot happening in the chat over here, and I think this is resonating with a lot of people. So
Okay.
I love the theory, and the theory is really great. But like, how do I create the discipline for this, or how do I actually do this?
So I'm going to ask you some questions. We'll do like a little
Yeah.
live. Okay. So when you sit down, you have a project in mind that you're sitting down to work on.
Almost never.
Okay. So what I want everyone to do tonight, just try it and see if it works, okay? You're going to pick one thing that you need to move forward. And you're going to write it on a post-it note. You're going to put it on your desk. Then you're going to close out of every tab on your computer. Yes, I'm saying it. You're going to close out of every freaking tab, and you're going to pull up the thing that is related. So say you're going to write a newsletter. You're going to have a Word document. You're going to put the title of the newsletter or the subject that you're going to write about. Okay. Maybe it's you're going to think about building a community and you want to sit down and actually talk about community strategy, or you're working on growing your community, put it on a post-it note, open up the thing that you need, close out of everything else. Now, tomorrow morning, when you wake up, before you check email, before you check Slack, I want you to just set a timer for 1 hour, work on that thing. And if you do nothing else tomorrow, you moved that thing
Mm.
forward an hour. And guess what? Those Slack messages and emails are still going to be there waiting for you. 1 hour won't significantly deter anyone. Think about how long it takes for somebody to respond to you sometimes. It's like people are busy, but the most successful people are guarding that time. And it's truly about clarity on what you're working on, which is where I think a lot of people just sit down and they let their email and their Slack dictate what they're working on for the day. And again, that's defense. You don't have the ball. You're not going to score. You're not going to win the game if you're just constantly letting other people dictate where you're going.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's like taking control of my day versus letting whatever inputs are coming in around dictate it. So I worked for a guy named Don Miller for a while, and he basically said like anybody who thinks they're going to get more than 3 things done in a day is just fooling themselves. And
Yeah.
so it's like, what are the 3 things that you're going to do today? And let's just focus on 3 things. And it's like, great, we'll just create focus times for those and like move everything else out. So
And if you do 3 bigger things a day, that's 15 a week. Think about how much you actually get done in a week. By the time the week ends, you're like, "Okay, I maybe like, what did I do this week? Like, what did I actually move forward?" But if you're focused, and I love the Post-it note thing because it's like, I don't need a long to-do list overwhelming me because again, we're protecting our brain. Even if you have a long to-do list in front of you, you may say, "I'm working on this thing," but just the sheer ability to see all of those things, your brain is now processing all of that information, and our brain can only process so much information at once. So I'm all about simplifying and saying, this is what I'm working on right now. Nothing else matters. And it's so simple, but yet it's really powerful.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, talk to me about more about burnout here because I think this kind of focus, how does all of what we're talking about here, plus having huge ambition, plus like having family and kids sports games and birthdays and everything else going on. Like talk to me about like is balance a real thing here? Are you trying to balance all this together? Is it intentionality or focus? Like it's a lot of stuff happening in life. And I think a lot of people get overwhelmed really quick. So talk to me about the mix of all of this outside of work too.
So first, I think you have to understand what where you're going with your life in this season and checking in to say what's important to you and what are your values in this season of life. And the word that I use, and I write about this in the book, is intentional imbalance. There are going to be seasons of life that you are going to crank and push. You're working towards a big launch, you're working towards a big MRR goal, you're doing a lot, and that's okay. It's going to be imbalanced. Where burnout happens is the lack of a check in at the end of that sprint. You just keep running the marathon and then moving the finish line. So I'm big on 2 things. I call it a spin cycle, and I write about this in the book. A spin cycle in a washing machine is this intentional part of the cycle that alleviates the intensity and the heaviness from the water before you go into the dryer, right? So for you, if you've been sprinting, you need a spin cycle. You need to come up and say, all right, that was really intense. There's a lot of heaviness in my life. Am I running the same spike cycle? Am I going to keep pushing towards this next goal? Do I need to come up for air for a week, 2 weeks, a month? So this idea of intentional rest and spin cycles, and I think many people, especially ambitious people, struggle with the word rest just because it feels like I'm slowing down. I don't need rest. Like I'm good. And you may not at the surface level, but without these check-ins, burnout is really tied to, do you still feel connected to the work? Like do you still feel like this is in line with who you are as a human? And are you giving yourself those intentional moments to say, all right, do I still feel good about what I'm working on? Does this still feel in alignment? Because I can tell you, I've gone through seasons of life where I can sustain working hard for a pretty long time as long as I keep checking in to say, yep, it's still in alignment. Yes, I know my non negotiables. And then the second piece is not only checking in with yourself, but really understanding like, is this, do I have my non negotiables with the rest of my life? And throughout the whole, like when you're sprinting, I have at least three non negotiables. I must move my body. I must have dinner with my kids every night. And I must have one date night a week.
Mm.
They're simple, but those are non negotiables. And so even when life is really, really intense and crazy, I keep those three because I know that those are the three. I believe burnout has caused this like epidemic of more is more is more is more. Oh, you need more supplements. You need more red light. You need like a 10-step routine to do this thing. And I wrote about this recently in my newsletter that self-care and anti-burnout, it's actually like a matcha flavored new version of perfectionism. When everything should be about simplification and knowing what your non-negotiables are in life. And if I can keep those three, then I know that I'm going to be okay. And I know when there's a spin cycle coming. And I'll say one last thing. Most ambitious people struggle with celebrations,
Hmm.
right? We're just like, launch something. Like I'll share, even I still struggle with this. I am an overachiever to a T. And I was telling my partner, I'm like, yeah, but like writing a book isn't a big deal. Like everybody writes a book. And he's like, no, you know a lot of people that write books because you hang out with a lot of authors. And he like Googled the stat and it's like less than 1% of the world is an author and has written or published a book. And I was like, oh, right, got it. Okay, I need to celebrate this. And when you hang around other ambitious people, you just think that what you're doing every day, like I'm from the Midwest, like most people don't still know what AI actually is and does. We are in a bubble. We're talking about how it's if, creating this system and this efficiency. We are so far ahead. We have to pause and celebrate like our cognitive ability, like what we're doing, what we're building, who we're meeting, who we're like there are people I'm talking to today that I would have only dreamt about meeting years ago. And that should be a moment to celebrate. So I think intentional rest and intentional celebration in the non-negotiables are the three kind of power pack for burnout prevention.
Yeah, I love that. Um, I think the celebration is a big deal. I think remembering where you've come from is a big deal.
Yes,
I have a picture of the house that I was born in just to kind of like remind
I
myself of
love
like,
that.
hey, like you've actually come a long way because you fall into that trap often where it's like, oh, this is all normal. Okay, I've got to go to the next thing. I've got to go to the next thing.
Yeah.
One of my mentors had said something to me that burnout is actually, it's actually a incongruence between your internal world and your external world.
Love.
And I think that's huge. It's like just remembering that the place that I'm in is like 10 years ago, I would be celebrating like the 10-year younger version of myself or the 15-year younger version of myself would be celebrating and doing backflips about where I'm at now. And
100%.
I think it's huge. So,
I was just going to say that there's a small trick that I tell people in my coaching sessions. Literally, just go into your email, type this time last year, look at what emails you sent this day last year. And you're going to be like, what? I was still learning about that, or I was still trying to figure that thing out. And you're literally going to be like blown away at where you were just a year ago. So that's a
mhm.
small little thing that you can do anytime you're like, oh, I'm so behind. I'm so behind. Let's reframe that inner narrative to say, I've come so far and I've got so much more in me to keep going, but I've come so far and I'm just getting started.
Yeah. A framework that I love here is zooming in and zooming out. So a lot of times when I feel people getting into this burnout cycle, they're just so zoomed in and they've forgotten to zoom out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think there's 2 people that it's really important for you to have a relationship with. It's number 1, it's your 15-year-old self. What does your
Mhm.
15-year-old self think about what you're doing right now? And let that 15-year-old be like, "You drive what car? You're doing what for work? You're doing what's going on? Like, wait,
Right.
our life's awesome." So that's
Yeah.
1. And then our 70-year-old self. And the 70-year-old self is like, "Hey, there's so much more that you can do still." And I think it's the balance of those 2
Yeah.
relationships where it's like, "Hey, things are probably not as significant as you think right now," or "Things are probably not as urgent as you think right now." That 70-year-old voice of wisdom, that happens. And I think having a relationship between those 2 allows you to zoom out a little bit more and see your point in the journey a little bit, uh, and give you a little bit of perspective. And I think perspective is
I love
really
that.
like the anti-burnout. So,
I love
um,
that so much.
I wanna talk a little bit about your business. So I've heard you say newsletter. I've heard you say course. I've heard you say community. Tell me a little bit about your creator business,
Mhm.
and how things work together and kind of what you do.
So I call it my 5C portfolio career. All right. So we've got content. So I make content and I get paid to make content. So that's my newsletter, that's keynote speaking, that's books. I create content and I make money for creating that content. So that's the first C. The second C is community. As people learn about my content and they want to build their own portfolio career, they can come into my office hours and we do it together. It's all about accountability and keeping people on track towards their goals. So community. As I learn about community, like what people are really struggling with, that feeds content. So that is a beautiful, wonderful first flywheel. Then people who want to work with me one on one can go into coaching. So I have a coaching container where I work one on one with people, helping them build their business, building their flywheels. And again, the more I learn and go deeper on someone's business, that creates so much better content because I'm going deeper. Now, I also still do consulting. So as companies see what I'm doing, and then maybe they want me to come in and talk to their executive team or build out their founder personal brand strategy or how to get an entire group of people doing that. So I do consulting. Then the last one is courses. So as I'm learning all of this, I see where, okay, maybe somebody doesn't want to do it with me or, do it for me with coaching. They need to do it themselves with my guidance. So then I'll turn these things into a course. I'm really intentional about what courses do. And I've found that I launched these 35 hard challenges, and I found that doing something together for a short sprint that eventually could become its own course. But when I do these 35 cards, it becomes a beautiful flywheel and acquisition funnel into my community because they see how powerful accountability plus coaching plus really good content can be. So those are my 5 C's and how I think about my business.
That's great. It sounds like the newsletter is a big part of that content piece.
Yep.
How long have you been writing the newsletter? And you said you're about to cross 100,000 subscribers, or you just crossed
Yeah.
100,000 subscribers. Tell me about.
June June 15th was the 2-year anniversary.
Wow. So 2 years in, and you've gone from nothing to 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible. Tell me, like, what did that take? How did you get there?
Uh, it was really understanding the what I wanted to write about and the impact and getting the content architecture down first and foremost and understand who I'm writing to. I always when I take people through like newsletter coaching, it's like if you don't have an ideal reader persona, like who are you talking to? I am talking to the person who is juggling work and life and they want to figure out how to optimize both so they can still make a crap ton of money, be successful in their career, whatever it is, and enjoy it all. So that's who I'm talking to. And I'll get really clear. I can picture it's like the mom or the dad who's like, trying to figure out, do I go play with my kids? Do I keep doing this? Like I can picture them. I think a lot of people start these projects, start a newsletter with like these metric goals. It's like I want to hit 10,000 subscribers. I want to make 10K a month from my newsletter. Those are good goals, but I would say first the goal is, are you actually helping people with your content? Is the content really good? I still have a 40, it ranges from 43 to 47% open rate with that many
Wow.
subscribers. Yeah, and it's because I'm constantly thinking about that person and looking at my content. I'm like, did they just get something from this? Did this make their life meaningfully better? You're not just trying to start a newsletter, you're trying to help someone with their life through your words. And so that's number one. And then number two is really understanding the growth levers you're going to use and how you're going to funnel the flywheel for that. Um, Anytime I get a paid sponsor for the newsletter, even in the beginning, I would get like a $500 paid sponsor. That money went right back in to grow and, buy 250, maybe it's $2 CPA. I'd add 250 new subscribers. Okay, great. And I just keep building slowly. But if you keep thinking that way, you keep putting the money back in, and it's a money in, money out situation, because as you grow, the more you can charge, the more you can put back into the top by, get more subscribers, etc. So that's kind of the paid flywheel I'm constantly thinking about.
That's really great. Let's double tap on that for a second. So basically, any money that you ever made from your newsletter, you would just reinvest into ads, or what? How would you do it?
Yeah, so spark loop,
Okay.
or intentional collaboration. So like whether it was, I'm going to potentially pay you, have 20,000 more subscribers than me, can I pay you to shout out my newsletter? I'm constantly thinking about what am I testing? What experiment am I running? And it's not only just the number of subscribers you get from a channel, but the quality of subscribers. And many people just turn on these things and they're like, okay, did number go up or number stay flat? And it's like, if number goes up, but open rate goes down, those are not quality subscribers. So I'm constantly finding this balance of, I spent that money. Did it actually give me people who can benefit from my content? And it just keeps coming back to, who can I help with the content? And those are the people that I want the most of.
It's amazing. Okay, so content, you do lots of other content. You're on LinkedIn, and there are other forms of content too. But the second C, I want to tap into a little bit because we care a lot about community here at Mighty.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about your community and what that looks like, just so people can kind of wrap their head around how you do it.
Yeah, it's so funny because I started my community, it was just a Slack channel, and then I would do Zoom sessions and send some emails. And I realized, like, I'm a one woman show. I have an EA, a virtual EA in the Philippines, but it's just me. Like, I don't have a community manager. And I quickly realized that without like a true platform, I was spending so much time on community management. So then I moved to Mighty Networks, and things just kind of like clicked, and I was able to focus on the thing that's really important, which is the connection piece. Because the faster, and Gina actually, she said something at the last summit that really just stuck with me. It's like, it's not about me. I may be the reason people join because they saw me somewhere, something stuck with them, and they're like, yeah, but I'm not the reason people stay. And as a community leader, that was so like refreshing and also just like alleviating for me, because you think that you have to be the reason, you have to always be on, you have to be there to answer questions. And really, when I changed the framing to be, how do I connect the people of my community? We started accountability pods and putting people together. When they join in the onboarding call, I give them 3 people that they should connect with, and I connect them. So there's all these little things and mechanisms I can do to allow for me to just be the connector, not this person that has to have all the answers, because I don't. Like, I'm on this journey with them, but part of it is just like, we're doing it together, we're learning together. And that's the kind of refreshing piece about my community. We are just in this, sharing all the, like, I tried this didn't work, I tried this worked, like, here's what we're doing. And it's all just about true community. Like, there's not
Yeah.
one like leader and trying to pretend to tell you how to do it.
Yeah, I think this is a conversation we've been having a lot at Mighty. We use the word host so intentionally here. But,
Yeah.
like, if I were to have a party and I were to invite you over to my house, and then everybody sat around me and I just talked the entire time, you would never come back to my house ever again. Or maybe
I
just
might,
as
because
long as
you're really fun to listen to, but like
yeah,
maybe that's
but it would have a
defensive.
shelf life. You'd be like, "Alright, like, that's not as fun." But, like, Amanda, if you come over to my house and I'm like, "Hey, Amanda, you should meet my friend Nathan," or "You should meet my
Exactly.
friend XYZ." Like, there's so many, there's so much more value that happens in that versus just me sitting in the corner and everybody's kind of sitting at my feet. It's like the guru culture that I think a lot of creators fall into really, really quickly. And listen, like, there's a reason that people came. It's because we're saying things that really resonate with people. We're really helping people, but it's really about connecting people together and being a host, more so than being the guru that people sit at the feet of. And I think that that kind of culture, I think, is really, really huge around community. Think about this. If you knew that every Friday I had a party at my house and every Friday you came and you met people that made you better every single Friday, you would arrange your life to be there all the time. You would come back
Yeah.
all the time. You would make sure, like, hey, actually, like, I have to come to this thing because I'm meeting people that's really valuable. Things are actually changing. But if I'm just sitting and talking the whole time, you're like, okay, 3 weeks. I kind of heard everything he has to say already. Uh,
Right.
and it's over. Right. And so that's what actually creates longevity in community as well, is people meeting people and people working together towards something.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
Amazing. All right, let's take a few questions. I'd love to take a few questions. I've had some folks who have dropped some questions that I've put over here in a document. But if you have questions for Amanda about burnout, about the two traps, the urgency trap or the significance trap, let's take a couple questions, and then we'll wrap up here in just a couple of minutes. But Amanda, first of all, while we're waiting for some questions to come in, thank you for being so generous with your time and sharing your journey with us. It's super amazing. A and B, thanks for doing it while you're on family vacation. We'll thank your kids and your partner later, but thanks so much for being here. There's so many people here who I know this has been so impactful for, but just again want to thank you for being so generous with your time and with your wisdom with us today. So
Of course. Like for anybody who's just starting on their journey, we continue to underestimate what we can do in a year and overestimate what we can do in a day. But where if somebody would have met me 2 years ago when I'm just clicking send on that first newsletter, there's no way I would have believed that I would have a book coming out, be making the money I'm making, be talking to the people. So just believe that you can do it, and you're already in a amazing community right now with the Mighty Networks crew.
yeah. Okay, first question. Let's talk about bridge building a little bit here. Somebody said earlier, okay, so if I want to get to where Amanda's at now, like, what do I need to be thinking about to bridge myself from where I'm currently at to where you're at now? How would you think about bridge building between those two places?
I'm going to share the secret that no one really talks about, which is most online support and connections you see of other creators, those are happening offline.
Mm,
So if you think that you can build a digital business without taking it offline and getting in it with people and meeting people and spending time with people, you're making it so much harder. Like literally, I'm here. Darrell and I were just hanging out in Boise, Idaho a few weeks ago, and at the Kit Summit. So it's like the people that helped grow my Twitter when I started, because that's the channel I started. This was when it was still Twitter. Um, those were people that I was having offline connections with. I would meet for coffee and say, I'm really struggling with this. And they're like, hey, when are you posting? I'll make sure to give you some love. That's the thing that you need to foster just as much as the digital side.
yeah, that's so good. Okay, next one is I'm struggling to make my content and newsletter relevant to my ideal avatar. Can you share some ideas about how I can make my content really, really relevant and really appealing to people?
I would ask ChatGPT a simple question. Go through a prompt saying, I'm trying to get in the head of this person. They do XYZ and they're wanting to accomplish ABC. Give me 50 things that they're worried about, questioning, wanting to know and learn, and line that up with what you're talking about and see how much overlap there is. Because if there's not a lot of overlap, you're not solving their problems and easing their stress and anxiety. A lot of times there's this disconnect of like, let me tell you all I know. And they're like, that's great. You sound super smart. It's not solving my pain points every day.
Yeah. I often say that empathy is a superpower in business. And the
Yeah,
good news is that everybody has the ability to strengthen their ability to empathize. And so if you think about your ideal reader, just take a moment and like, what are they scared of? What are they struggling with? What are they banging their head against the wall at? And all you have to do is write, if you're going to write a weekly newsletter, you just got to write 52 love letters to that person who's frustrated
I
or
love that.
challenged or like really just connect with them, right? And the even better part is if your ideal avatar is a younger version of yourself, all you have to remember is exactly what you needed or what you wanted to hear. And oftentimes I think we get into like marketing speak a little bit and it feels a
Mhm.
little mysterious or mystical. The reality is it's like we're just talking to people. And so
Yeah.
talk to a person, like what is the care that you have for them?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I'll give a like very meta moment that happened here. It's like I could have pretended that I didn't have sunscreen in my eye and that my eye wasn't watering at the beginning of this, but people connect with humanity. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm on vacation. I have sunscreen on my face. Like it got in my eye. Like I think about that all the time, whether I'm on stage or I'm writing something in my in LinkedIn or in my newsletter. How can you connect on a humanity level? Because that's we're all humans. We're all just trying to do this together. I think we try to act like we don't have that side of ourselves, that we're perfect, we're perfectly polished. Like what people really are connecting with is the fact that you're human.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Final thought, Amanda. If you were talking to 2 year ago Amanda, who's just getting started, and you're now in this place, what is it that you'd want to say to her as she's getting started and she's thinking about, uh, she's probably thinking about and dreaming about the Amanda that you are today? What would you say to that 2 year ago Amanda?
You're going to make some mistakes and that's okay. And you're not going to have this clear, perfect like stepping stones to where you are. And that's okay. Like, don't worry about stepping on the wrong stepping stone. It's okay. You're still gonna just keep moving forward. Forward progress, like somebody told me recently, a kick in the butt is still forward progress. Like you literally, my son is right here. So again, human moment. Grayson, I need you to go over there. Sorry, everyone. the
You're fine.
Legos stopped. The Legos didn't last. But I would say that I started projects that I ended up shutting down and it's okay. Like you learn and you're learning forward and that's all that matters.
Amazing. Well, Amanda, thank you for being here. We'll let you get back to your family and to your family vacation. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. It's great to see everybody. I'm so excited to see what you guys are building. Keep going. This is a great place to be doing it. Creator Summit is my favorite place.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda.